Netbook has confirmed when it will launch the OneXPlayer Mini, its latest handheld gaming device. The OneXPlayer Mini is already orderable in Japan with a 1200p display, a Core i7 to 1195 G7 and 16 gigs of RAM. The OneXPlayer Mini will arrive globally before the middle of January. It would be wrong to say that the Nintendo Switch was the first big-screen handheld console, but there's no denying that the sheer popularity of the system has prompted many more companies to create their own handheld gaming devices, often based on Android or Windows. Among the many devices trying to capitalize on the success of the Switch, we got the OneXPlayer last year, and now, the company is back with a more compact version, aptly called OneXPlayer Mini, and we're here to review it. This is a smaller model that's much closer to the actual size of the Nintendo Switch, while still offering a full PC experience and solid performance. Not just a response to the Switch, it's also trying to preemptively fight the Steam Deck, which is the first big-name effort of this kind that will actually come to market. The OneXPlayer Mini sits squarely between the Nintendo Switch and Steam Deck in size, measuring 4.3 by 10.3 by 1.3 inches to the Switch's 4 by 9.4 by 0.6 inches, and the Steam Deck's 4.6 by 11.7 by 1.9 inches. Weighing 21.8 ounces, the OneXPlayer Mini is quite dense for its size. It's nearly half a pound heavier than the Switch, and less than 2 ounces lighter than the Steam Deck. Its body is plastic, with a matte black finish that feels solid in hand. The OneXPlayer Mini has a conventional control layout, with off-axis dual analog sticks, A, B, X and Y buttons, and Xbox layout, a standard direction pad, and 2 pairs of shoulder bumpers triggers. It lacks the Steam Deck's touchpads, but it doesn't place the analog sticks uncomfortably high, and parallel with the face buttons and direction pad. The controls feel solid and responsive, similar to the Xbox wireless controller. Besides the active game controls, the OneXPlayer Mini's front holds 5 menu buttons, the standard start select buttons near the top, a multi-purpose button in the lower left corner, and keyboard and game assistant buttons in the lower right corner. Front-facing speakers sit below the 3 bottom menu buttons. The OneXPlayer Mini's bottom edges hold a USB-C port, a pinhole microphone, and 2 square notches for an optional keyboard dock. The top edge has another USB-C port, USB-A port, a 3.5mm headphone jack, a power button, and a volume rocker. Vents sit on the top edge and back panel of the system. The OneXPlayer Mini can be charged over USB-C through either port on the system, though it's a bit finicky in terms of power demands. The system includes a wall adapter with both a 65-watt PD USB-C port and a USB-A port, but only the former would provide enough power to charge the device. I found no combination of USB-A wall adapter and cable that kept the handheld powered, so make sure you use a properly beefy PD charger. As we've mentioned already, the OneXPlayer Mini comes with a 7-inch display, and it's meant to go toe-to-toe with the Steam Deck, which is a similarly sized display. The OneXPlayer Mini also has a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, similar to the Steam Deck, but it comes with a sharper Full HD Plus display, with 1920 by 1200 resolution. On paper, that sounds like a good thing, but I think it was actually a smart idea of Valve to use an HD Plus display instead. Intel-based PCs burn through their battery quite quickly, and I think the sharper screen doesn't bring enough benefits of this size to justify the increased power consumption. We'll get to battery life later, though. The Intel version of the OneXPlayer Mini features an Intel Core i7 to 1195 G7 CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, and your choice of 512 gigs, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabytes of SSD storage. We were sent the 512 gigs model, which came with the drive pre-partitioned into a 165 gigs Windows partition and a 300 gigs data partition. Although the system can use external storage over USB, it doesn't have a user-accessible M.2 SSD or even microSD card slot to expand storage. If you want to load it up with games, you should consider getting at least the 1 gig model. The OneXPlayer Mini is a Windows PC, so we ran most of our usual benchmarks and tests. The Steam Deck, on the other hand, isn't a Windows system, so only some of our tests offered directly comparable numbers. With that in mind, we also looked at laptops similarly priced to the OneXPlayer Mini. So, for general productivity, the OneXPlayer Mini might be capable in terms of pure power, but video processing will take ages. Unlike laptops with similar components, this device is very clearly not intended for productivity. It lacks a physical keyboard, its screen is too small, and you'd need a USB-C video adapter to make the desktop large enough to work with comfortably. Monster Hunter Rise performs well enough on the OneXPlayer Mini. At its lowest graphical settings, the game runs at a consistent 60 FPS. That drops to around 45 FPS at average settings, and a churning sub 30 FPS at the highest settings. In short, you'll enjoy playing Monster Hunter Rise on the OneXPlayer Mini, but the system's performance trails the Steam Deck's. We test laptop's battery life by playing a locally stored 720p video file with display brightness at 50% and audio volume at 100% in airplane mode, from full battery power until shutdown. The OneXPlayer Mini lasted 5 hours, 44 minutes under these conditions. This is low for mid-range laptops, but it seems typical for handheld gaming systems. The Steam Deck and Nintendo Switch OLED edition can last up to 8 and 7 hours, respectively. Naturally, playing graphics-intensive 3D games drains the battery much faster than watching video content or playing simple, sprite-based games. It's clear why devices like the OneXPlayer Mini have become a darling of PC gamers and retro game fans. It's a fully functional Windows PC with solid mid-range specs. Although its integrated graphics processor doesn't offer a consistently smooth gaming experience for more recent PC games, it's more than enough power for retro gaming extending at least into the 6th console generation. These specs in this form factor are rare, which made the OneXPlayer Mini an appealing handheld despite its price. If you want to play a ton of games, including a strong handful of classics, with an even easier interface, the $300 Nintendo Switch and $200 Switch Lite are both smaller, lighter, and less expensive than either the OneXPlayer Mini or Steam Deck. You can't run your own software on them, or turn them into emulation machines without a lot of risky work involving custom firmware, but they're excellent in their own right. Thank you for watching this video. If it's not difficult, you can share it with your friends. Have a nice day, and see you soon.